Welcome to the 359. I'm Roger Chang, and with me is special guest and show favorite, Scott Stein.
Hi.
Scott, you've had the Apple Watch Series 4 now for about a week.
Yep, about a week.
So what are your impressions? What do you think?
Well, I think that if you were looking for a larger watch and a little bit of a design change, that's really nice. I think that the possibility is a possibility because we have not seen the ECG feature activated, but Apple has electrocardiogram heart rate technology on this that's FDA cleared. That's a first in any sort of wearable in that category. So, but what that's for, we don't really know in terms of like it's for you and your doctor, and it's for looking at it's looking for arrhythmia. So basically, that's TBD. The rest of the watch is a nice upgrade, but I don't think a lot of the features are really all that different in everyday use, including battery life.
So the big question, I have a Series 3. For folks who have the older generation watches, is it worth an upgrade?
I don't think so. And I think a lot of people early on were really excited about the size. I think the size is one of those things when you look back, the Series 3 now seems bulkier. The classic looks worse in the rearview mirror. The new version is more of a subtle but overdue upgrade. The watch faces, there aren't that many new watch faces. There are a couple that are great, but complications, not all of them hook in yet.
And I know you're always talking about the watch face store, the mythical watch face store. It's still not here yet.
No, there's two things I really need in an Apple Watch. One is a watch face store, so you cannot download any other watch faces other than the, admittedly, 25, which is a lot, that Apple includes that are customizable. But if you want to look for anything new and different, there isn't anything else. There are only two unique ones to the Apple Watch Series 4. Now, the other thing is battery life. It's about a day and a half right now, and there are other watches that are striving for more battery life, and that equation has not changed. So watch face store and battery life,
and that day and a half, that's pretty comparable to last year's model, the Series 3, right?
Yeah, it's very much the same. And that means a solid day on a charge plus. But if you're looking for multi-day, Qualcomm is trying to work towards that on its chips to get to, more basic functions over multiple days. Fitness trackers can last a week or longer. I think for health, if you want to put this on someone's wrist, this has now fall detection that we are waiting to test.
So is that available yet? Or
that is available now.
So how have you tried falling to test it or?
No, I've not tried falling yet. I'm going to try falling. We're trying to set up a condition where I don't kill myself, but it's like a real fall. And it's off by default. You have to turn it on, and the idea is that if you fall and you stay down, it will send an SOS automatically, kind of like the same way if you press and hold on the side of the watch.
Help me, I've fallen and I can't get up. Medical monitor devices, right?
Now, Apple doesn't claim, even in the settings, that it will detect all falls, and that's the thing. If you're looking for 100% accuracy in detection, there's no claim there. Is it better than not having that? Sure. But, that's a question as far as who would you put it on and would you trust? I wouldn't use it as a replacement for watching somebody who might be falling, but it might be an extra fail-safe. Gotcha. It's certainly a nice direction to go into. They upgraded the accelerometer, the gyroscope, and the heart rate. The question is what other features will unlock down the road for that. Right now, it seems like a lot of the basic functions, including basic fitness, are all pretty much the same as on Series 3. There's extra battery life if you're on runs, but by about an hour. We're still testing that, but it's not a great leap there. Other dedicated fitness watches do a lot better for that, for GPS.
And what about running this on just the LTE radio alone? Is the battery still terrible? Or?
Yeah, battery life drains quickly on that. I think you're not going to get a full day if you put on LTE. The reception is improved, and that they replaced the back and made it all ceramic. So that's nice. And so far, it does seem like reception's better. And things do seem generally faster. Already, I think it was perfectly fast on the S3. It bridged that. But now things are loading ridiculously quickly to the point where we used to complain about that on the Apple Watch. And it is nice to see that now runs at iPhone speed, I feel, with loading apps.
Oh, there you have it. For more on the Apple Watch coverage, check us out on CNET. I'm Roger Chang.
I'm Scott Stein.
Thanks for listening.
And thanks everybody for sticking with us and being patient when we're running behind. Scott is a very busy man, but we appreciate him being here. Now, that being said, Scott, hold still. Let's test this fall damage, shall we?
Yeah, should we do it? First time ever?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Do it on live video. That's the best time to do it.
Let's do it. This is the first time I've done fall testing.
Should I do it as well? I mean, I don't have a watch.
Let me make sure it's on.
That was a joke. I was gonna pretend to come push you.
Oh my God, no! I'm actually gonna.
He's gonna do it. I think he's gonna do it right now.
Do it. No, I gotta make sure I've got it on. Cellular.
I'm curious about that. Would you be willing to buy this for like a parent, an aging parent, or an aging relative that I guess would be prone to these kinds of accidents?
Possibly, but the thing is, and between that and like walkie-talkie and ways you keep in touch, it's not easy to set up an Apple Watch. So you'd have to set it up for them. And I don't know.
I feel like not Apple-like at all, right? The whole point is these things are supposed to be easy to set up.
Oh yeah, no. It's a somewhat complicated process. I mean, there is a way to instantly aim it and pair it with your watch, but then there's like a whole loading process that takes a while. It's faster than it used to be. But here, emergency SOS. So I don't know. I would talk to my doctor or nurse for the person I was caring for.
Yeah.
And I would say, well, what do you recommend? That's the same thing with ECG. It's basically like I would talk to my doctor and say, well, do you think that would be good for me? Like in a way, it goes beyond a reviewer.
The ECG thing really, I question the actual purpose for you on an everyday basis. Like I get how that data is important for a doctor to have, but like, yeah, are you gonna be taking ECGs of yourself like every day? And
no.
What's the point, right?
ECG is a if you've never done it, and I've seen it demoed on the Apple Watch, but it's not available yet. You take a 30-second sample.
Yeah.
Stationary. So this is not like when you're out and about.
Right.
And then that is a more accurate sensor for things like heart rate, rhythm irregularities. It's still not a replacement. It cannot detect, according to Apple, it will not detect heart attacks. It's like a 3-lead ECG versus a 1-lead. Doctors have even more leads for ECG, so real doctor's office ECG is more advanced than this. But it is a step. I looked at one last year, Cardioband. That was an accessory that does this. Another solid step, but who would use that? Basically someone who's concerned that their heart rate might be a little weird, and you might be testing it.
But I mean, I like the fact that Apple's kind of normalized it because there are a number of people out there with conditions. It's really not that dissimilar in my mind from somebody who maybe has diabetes and has to have a pump or an insulin, insulin pump. And
absolutely.
That way. Like there's, I mean, if there is something that could be very seamless and casual to just keep on your person that will help you maintain your health when you have very specific requirements like that, I mean, I applaud that. For sure, as long as it works well.
It's a huge step to be FDA cleared, and I think that was a surprising moment because a lot of companies have been dancing around it, trying to get to that point, and Apple got there first compared to competitors, and so I think that's great. It's not cleared for all functions. That's for things like certain things with heart rate. So yeah, but you're right. Like it's a great move, but it may not be something that I think an everyday person is really going to use.
Yep.
So, like, it's an applaud the effort in TBD, but I would be hesitant to say go out and buy the Apple Watch Series 4 for it, because also I don't even know how it works yet. We don't know how that ECG works. We have not tested it. But here, I'm going to try falling.
Wait, how are you going to do this?
I'm going to fall.
Where?
Fall detection. I don't know, off my chair.
Well, go ahead.
It's not going to work. This is like not a real fall. So like, what am I going to do? I'm just going to slowly fall. Okay.
All right, camera angles there. Here we go.
1, 2, 3. Ow, that even hurt.
Oh, that sounded like it hurt, actually.
Okay.
Are you okay?
That was more of a fall on my knees. It did not go up. That was the fakest fall in the world. That was like a terrible fall.
I was actually more worried about your arms bracing yourself for that fall at that point than.
I'm not ready to do another fall.
Yeah. We'll have to really work out the test.
My knees are like that wasn't great.
No.
But did it give you any kind of indication at all?
No.
They said something about it's more about the arm movement, like the flail that really kind of triggers it.
I just went down on my knees and it was like lame. You have to.
I think the watch knew though that you were half-assing that fall.
So the according to Apple, the accelerometer can now detect greater G's, greater G-force. So so that's a lot of it too. Is that I think it's when it registers an impact of a certain amount of G's that it will. I don't know what that is, but it triggers it. So you really have to have a real impact.
Right.
Also, apparently, it can sense motions of your hand that might indicate something algorithmically for what a fall would be. So it could be like if your hand splays out or does something.
Yeah, I imagine it has to.
It's a couple of things.
Yeah, there has to be a few criteria up to me because then you'll have a lot of false positives and it's annoying.
Right.
So yeah.
So I mean, yeah, it's one of those things you're probably not going to notice. And so, interestingly, too, I guess it's that it's for falls. Falls off a bike could be a possibility for this detecting, which I hadn't thought about. Crashes, no, it is not. Is not set up for that. So I started to think about that, and I thought, well, as a general impact detector, that would be useful, but it wouldn't even work for something like that. In the future, that would be great, because if you got into a crash or something that would immediately send an alert would be a great idea. But I don't know.
Yeah, that would be really difficult to set up on the watch for detection, right?
I think so. I mean, I'm still at the point where do not disturb while driving goes on while I'm on the train.
Oh yeah.
For my phone. And
yeah.
I'm always like, no, I'm not driving. So yeah, there's a lot of, we're making progress, and that's not to, sorry, I'm burping. It's
good radio.
Apologize. There we go. Live burp moments.
There we go.
Subtle burp. I think there are very important steps, but they're not ones that I'm obviously encountering on a daily basis.
All right. Well, Brian, do we have any questions?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, we and the chat do applaud you, Scott, for making the effort. So thanks for doing that. We got to test this more. I do really want to see this thing work, because it really could be a fantastic implementation.
We want to do fall tests.
Yeah, we'll figure something out.
It's going to happen. It might happen in SF with someone who's fitter and has I don't know why I'm saying San Francisco has all the fit people.
That's not true.
There are fit people in New York as well.
Yeah.
I would just have to get ready. You drug me and have me fall over. If you have any suggestions for how I could fall in a video,
can you
would
just
be
fall on a
entertaining.
mattress?
I
Or
could
would it detect that you're landing on something soft?
Probably the watch would be like, you fell on a mattress.
It'd be funny if
the watch knows.
And the chat was saying, if they knew it was a quote-unquote daddy fall, just like, wimp.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is.
Life Improvement did point out, though, something that factored into the lack of reaction in this quote-unquote test is the fact that you got right back up again. I think they pointed out that it's like if you fall and you stay down, it knows you're hurt.
That's exactly
That's a good point.
Yeah,
for sure.
So that's when it
should
send the
5
alert
minutes or something.
Yeah, I think it's, I don't know how long, but it's
there's
something.
there's a period. That's a great point. There's a period of inactivity that has to go through before I think they start. But I think that's for calling your emergency contact. As opposed
exactly
to,
right.
It is. So
it's probably the equivalent
call,
of hey, wait, what? Oh wait, never mind, you're fine.
Yeah, it first calls emergency services, then it calls someone on your contact list.
Okay.
So it goes in that order, with the idea that the emergency call is the 911 is the most important one.
Yeah.
And it says it notifies that a fall has happened and sends your location.
Now, did it go off on Sunday?
What was on Sunday?
First day of fall.
I thought that was a.
No, I have pun detection off.
That was like a Jets reference or something.
Yeah, I thought so too. I was like, are you talking about
what?
that was like
I said fall, not fail.
the real fall when the Jets lost to the Browns.
Go Bills. Anyways, okay, so right off the bat, we had a really excellent question from Priority 1 before we even got the show started.
Yeah.
He says, I'm in a wheelchair. Would the watch register every push of the wheel? It'd be interesting to see my miles a day. We got to get Apple's attention on this, because if that isn't a meter that they can read yet, that would be a fascinating addition to it.
No, it already does that. Actually, Apple had made a big deal of this last year, that they have made. Now, I have not used it, but their fitness tracking does recognize wheelchairs. Check on that on their site, but we have not done accessibility, testing for that. But that is something that Apple has addressed. So. That's something that should be in last year's Apple Watch. I believe that's like a Watch OS feature. I don't know how far back it goes, but yes, it should give you credit. I don't know how that gets tracked and turned on. I believe it's a sub activity feature. I'm sorry I don't know the details on that, and I should. But I remember that was addressed. It was a big deal, I think, at the last Apple Watch event when it was being discussed, or Watch OS unveiling. So I believe you should be in good hands with that. I think that's should be a good supported feature. TBD.
From a big thank you to DC4147 saying, look for someone who does Aikido. Those people are trained to fall over. I think that's a great suggestion if we want to do a real great fall test. I think I remember seeing something about how a lot of stunt performers in Hollywood, they train in Aikido on that behalf. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I think I remember that reference.
Yeah.
Sure. I don't know. I don't know specifically which martial art. I mean, that sounds right.
Now, something to keep in mind when we're like
maybe
planning
you should,
to do...
maybe you should go to like an Aikido studio and like get thrown around. But they throw you around safely, I guess.
And then we get like 3 hours into it and realize that Scott forgot to put the watch on.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, exactly. Can you do that again?
Okay, more questions before we run out of time from James. I would love to find out how well the ECG monitor works and if it lives up to the hype. Now, you were just saying we haven't been able to spend enough real time with the ECG.
Well, it doesn't work at all. It doesn't work at all.
It's not even. It's not active.
It's coming later in a software update.
I have peeked over the shoulder of somebody showing a demonstration reading of ECG, just for demo purpose of showing what it looks like. But that's it.
Yeah.
It's not live yet. Apple has not even announced a launch date. They just said it's coming later this year. Whether that has to do with final FDA clearance, it's going to be in the U.S. first, as far as like where. Well, so that's another thing to keep in mind. If you're in an overseas market, you may not have that feature unlocked, depending on whether it's been cleared for use. So I'm sure they're working on that. But I'm curious too. I did use the Cardia band last year, which is an already existing Apple Watch accessory. They also make a standalone that does ECG reading. Mm-hmm. Basically, it gives you like your hospital readout ping, where all of a sudden you start seeing the heart rate as you'd see it, you know, like in your TV movie, you know, being hooked up or being in a hospital. So it records that 30-second heart rate. Apple's will also analyze that and make a statement as far as detecting arrhythmia.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we'll say something like nothing too much of a judgment, but it might say like we're detecting an arrhythmia or there does not seem to be an arrhythmia. And the idea is that it's all from there between you and your doctor.
Right.
I think by design, a lot of these are not making health claims.
Mm-hmm.
Not making health claims. They're not making
like health recommendations.
Yeah, they're not making diagnosis or recommendation.
Yeah.
That's part of the restriction of what this can and cannot do. So then it's something that you record, then send to your doctor as a PDF too. That's another interesting thing. So I know that you can send it as a PDF or have it go into the health app. And then, you know, it's one of those things that they just want to see a current reading, or if you're like, hey, I may need to come in. Here's my recent reading.
I'm just curious if you'll be able to move it from person to person. Like if like I want to give my dad an EKG, can I take off the watch, put it on him, and just run it, and then get those stats? Or is it personalized to like your profile?
Well, it would be, you know, like Apple Health is all for you, and it's, you know, so like it wouldn't change anything. It would probably just go into your own.
It would go into your database,
profile. You could then delete you could probably delete the reading, or you could just send that off and you know, send that file. And say, by the way, this is. Yeah, I think you could use it for that, but it's not. But yeah,
I'm sure Apple's advice would be like, buy another Apple Watch.
Right? Why don't you get one for him?
Yeah.
But it would not like. It wouldn't like. The calibration, I don't think, would change over time.
Okay.
Like it would be. Who knows? But I think that would work out okay. I mean, there's no different user settings for Apple Watches anyhow. It's like in order to change it to another setting, you have to put on a different device.
Right.
And repair and set it up all over again.
Like the full setup process. Yeah.
Reinstall, basically.
But it would be kind of nice, like, you know, if I've got like relatives who may not have an Apple Watch, like older folks, I'd be like, here you go, let's just see how that whole ticker's doing.
So speaking of that, do we think that that's going to be a big strategy for Apple? Because there is concern, like, people who might need this for the ECG, for the fall detection, etc., people who don't tend to gravitate towards technology. Not to say there aren't exceptions to the rule, but let's be honest, my grandparents weren't exactly rushing out to get the new fancy phone.
Right.
Do we think that that's going to be a challenge, how Apple is going to get over that? Do you think people will gravitate towards that naturally?
I mean, I think especially if they get like insurance companies involved, I think that would help a lot. If all of a sudden,
who's paying for it? Exactly.
Yeah, the insurance company's like, if you wear this Apple Watch, whatever, you'll get this for free, and you can knock off $5 from your premium or something.
That's smart.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think the fact that you've got the fall detection, you've got things that appeal to folks who may not necessarily have considered an Apple Watch before, but they might, or it's more, I guess, like for me, I would be more interested in buying one of these for my parents as they get older.
Mm-hmm.
And this is probably a device that they wouldn't be necessarily ashamed to wear, as opposed to one of those traditional fall detection devices, which have that negative stigma attached to them.
Sure.
That's true. I think that also the watch, I mean, people are fine setting up the Apple Watch now, I guess. So many people have them. I still feel like the setup is a little bit cumbersome.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
So you'd
it
have
takes
to
a
do
while.
it for somebody. Do they also need to have a phone to make it work, though? Is that
You do.
Yeah.
That's what I was
Yes.
about to get to, is that it would be really nice for the Apple Watch to be a standalone device. And it's not yet. It could very well be in the future. Like, I mean, I do remember
baby
that
steps?
the iPhone used to have to be, am I crazy that you had to
For the Mac,
plug it in? And,
tapped
yeah,
into the
you had to
Mac.
like set it up and plug it in for iTunes. And there was a lot more connected pairing. You know,
Right.
the iPhone is a fully standalone device that gets its own music and its other things.
Well,
that was
it
kind of a later development.
It worked as a phone, but if you wanted to implement all the smartphone features, get music on it, yeah, you had to use.
You had
like,
to plug it
iTunes,
in.
et cetera.
You had to plug it in. So, and then we look now and you go, oh, well, now you set up an iPhone. You used to have to set up an iPhone first on a computer. Now it's fully on its own. You never, you know, a computer never is involved.
Although, to be fair, it took about 7 or 8 years for that to happen.
Yeah.
It took a while.
It may take that
And
long
well,
for
I
Apple
think the
Watch.
Apple Watch's challenge is because it's smaller, like things like battery, things like LTE radio,
Yes.
things that can make it independent are still fairly limited by physics, right? By physical restrictions. So,
And battery life is part of that. Like,
Yeah.
I still want to see it have better battery life, and that is probably going to have to do with more efficient processors than it has to do with sticking a larger battery in there.
yeah, because the battery technology is not going to change either.
Right.
So, yeah, for sure.
All right, we're running low on time. There's a couple really, really great questions I want us to get to. Does the watch take advantage of the larger display, like a bigger face, larger widgets?
Ooh,
and how is the screen? Is it brighter?
Great questions. Screen brightness, I think, is about the same. The larger screen, I'm let down by how much it's taken advantage of or not. Everything is bigger, which again, that could really matter for people. You know, for me, I didn't need it, but you know, the very simple thing of text being more readable, etc. There are only 2 unique watch faces on this one. The ones you probably saw in the keynotes, the infograph, modular. They're very like lots of things going on in them. I was let down because the number of the complications, the bits of information that tap in, some of them have extra nice little readouts and features like the temperature range or things. Others don't, like heart rate. When I put heart rate on there, instead of showing what you think would be there, which is recent heart rate reading or a range, resting heart rate, it just shows a heart icon, which is a shortcut. So that's not helpful. And some of the complications don't even link back to existing apps. So third-party apps or even first-party apps, like I couldn't get text messages to show up as one of the things, or other types of messages. And there were only like 5 or 6 for one of the types that I could even pick from on the watch. And it's unclear whether others will tap in or not. And the amount of customization on all the watch faces, to me, is still lacking. Like, I can't add extra bits of information if I wanted to.
Right.
And you can't change the watch display to be different or to change the layout sometimes. It's very finicky. Lots of options, but not always the options you'd want. You need that, plus a watch face store. Like, it's all about the time. It's all about laying out that
Scott in the
stuff.
watch face store. Come on, Apple. Make it happen.
Come on. I'm going to lead the watch face store team.
There you go. I know.
I just want to announce that's what
Scott's
I'm doing.
leaving CNET
To join
not
the
Apple, but
non-existent.
join the actual watch face
Just
team.
I'm joining a team
Yeah.
that's playing a sport
It may not
called
necessarily
the Watch Face Store team. We're just playing softball. That's what we're doing.
cool softball name.
I
Team name.
just want, I think that'll be a huge moment when that arrives. And also, I just think more customization of watch faces. It's not happening fast enough.
Yeah.
But kind of like how I feel about the iPhone Max, the XS Max, doesn't make enough of the display for some of the apps where you could possibly split up and make it more iPad-like.
I mean, I imagine that's the dilemma they face. Though, right? If they start building stuff specifically for that bigger screen size, then they start to fragment, and then you've got the
Yes.
Android problem, right?
Yes.
I mean,
No, it is a very interesting conundrum with that,
right.
with the different
and
sizes.
Apple's always kind of erred on the side of controlling things, right? Kind of keeping things consistent and uniform. I mean, that's one reason why I do kind of respect Wear OS, right? I feel like they're a little bit more flexible when it comes to watch faces, or
It's more flexible, although the watch faces can get very clunky on those. Like, there are more of them,
yeah.
but they really, I think Apple's are really nice in the number of complications in general versus the competition, but they are strangely rigid in the rules that they apply.
Yeah.
But Wear OS does have, like, I mean, if you wanted to make another type of watch face, you could put it on. They do mostly tend to do similar types of things. There's also a Wear OS update that's coming. That's going to change some of the interfaces, but that's still, it does make you appreciate that Apple's is very finessed.
Oh, for sure.
It's
they have a
super
limited
finessed.
number of well-produced, polished watch faces.
Yeah.
But sometimes you want that chaos, right? Not everyone wants that polish, right?
Well, I just want like things, I want to be able to make my own dashboard, and I still feel with the Apple Watch that I can't make it my own dashboard the way to which I really want. And what is that really? Like, who knows? But it could be like looking at little messages pop up on a feed, or it could be like sports scores, and like it's there, but it's not, it's still kind of annoying.
Okay. Right, do we have any last questions?
Yeah, real quick. First and foremost, from me, I hate that they call them complications.
I do too.
Yeah,
it's a watch industry term.
It's not open for discussion. It's stupid.
But you know what? It's not them. So that's a watch industry term. That goes back to like mechanical watches. That it's called.
But those were complicated.
Right. Well, also like they were. They were complicated, and they were things that you were almost like show-off features. Like the idea was you've engineered something to now tell the time, like a beautiful automaton that has these gears.
Well, that's the thing, that complexity is,
and you're like, well done.
That's treated as a positive, but like the term complications on a smartwatch,
I hate it.
It just seems,
I want to call it, what do we call it? Widgets?
Widgets.
The little widgets. That's not a bad idea.
We're used to widgets. Anyways.
Basically, they're widgets.
Okay. What about seizures? Can this detect seizures? Since that could happen to a person who's not necessarily standing, they're already down, to detect that.
I don't.
There's been no claim of that.
I don't think they'd ever even get near that claim.
No,
like, that would be.
That
would require so much more testing and FDA scrutiny that I don't think Apple, at least now or anytime soon, would consider that.
I think down the road, there's always hope that these devices will, with more accurate sensors, be able to detect more things. But yeah, the point at which you can make those claims and get approved for it is that's a long road. I mean, it will, again, I think the seizures is more about detecting the fall if you have a seizure. Yeah. But it wouldn't detect the presence of a seizure at all. There's nothing with that.
That'd be another really great one for them to implement down the line. Okay, home stretch here. Proposed situation is if you already have an elderly member of your family and you're thinking like, oh, this new watch might be something very beneficial to them, but they're kind of stuck in their ways, and you've already got them into the smartphone train, but they haven't upgraded in a few years. Let's say they're running an iPhone 5.
Yep.
Will this ECG monitor and any of the other fall detection applet type widget things, will that function with older model phones?
So yeah, any phone, yes, it'll work with. I don't know to what degree going back. It's interesting. We have to go check. But if the watch is pairing and the watch is connected and it's running watchOS 5, that'll all work because it's all on watch, and the rest of it just get, like for sending a message, etc. That just gets brokered the way it would always happen via phone. So fall detection is on watch. ECG is on watch. That's all. That's all.
The
watch.
ECG will be available on the Series 3 and older.
No, ECG is hardware based.
Okay.
That's
but
an
fall detection isn't.
Fall detection is also just the new hardware.
Okay.
So sorry, that is only on the new watch, but working with older phones, it should, as long as the phone is paired.
Sure, got it.
And connected, because that's just about sending a phone call. But the fall detection is because of improved accelerometer that they say can detect a greater range. ECG is literally an electrical circuit that has been put in there that completes by holding up to that goes through to the crown, which we haven't tried out, but that's basically what you do. Good question. I mean, the problem with all these things that detect stuff that are supposed to be lifesavers is, it's like you want it to work all the time.
Right.
So if I were to get this for somebody, I want it to work all the time. I don't want to screw up and have a problem where, and this could be any of these things, if the battery life runs out, if the connectivity is not there and it couldn't complete the phone call, or if it didn't sense the drop, or just all these variables.
The issue, nothing's ever perfect.
The issue with it is,
but I don't know yet.
These other medical devices, they run, for days, right? This thing would have to be charged every day or every other day. Like, what happens to make sure as it's charging? So I think that's still a question mark for this.
That's true too. Yeah. I mean, the charging is about an hour to charge, or something. You charge it at night, but that's the other thing. At night, this brings up one other thing that we didn't even get to. These watches are not meant to be worn at night right now. They don't do sleep tracking, and they don't do heart rate awareness at night. Now, that is something that Apple has really not gotten into, not touched for obvious reasons because the battery life won't last it. But I think it's a big missing link here.
Yeah.
And by all means, when Apple does make that move, they're going to make a big deal out of it. Because all the other wearables out there that they're competing against have sleep tracking.
Right.
The Samsung Galaxy Watch has sleep tracking. Well, Wear OS, no. Fitbit has sleep tracking. Garmin's have sleep tracking. Like your basic wearables have sleep tracking. And some of them, like Fitbit, are aiming to be much more aware of heart conditions when you're sleeping. Now, Fitbit is still working on apnea detection. Now, that's not there yet, but they're working on trying to detect that. It could be that Apple and Fitbit arrived through the gate at the same time on that. But I think that there are things like that about there are further roads to check out. And if your heart rate gets abnormally low, which is the new thing in the Series 4, well, if you're not wearing the watch at night, then you won't necessarily know. Plus, would you even be aware if the notification went off?
Right.
So, yeah, in actual practice, there are a lot of questions I have. And you agree. Omron, their blood pressure watch, which is not out yet, but they were talking about how the goal there at CES back in January was that people don't recharge things.
Yeah.
So if you give it to someone who's elderly, like really elderly, who's wearing this, 2 weeks or a week or whatever else, because they're just not going to remember, a nurse won't remember. So the Apple Watch doesn't seem like it would slide well at all into real elderly care, like where they may not be aware very much, or they may need care, because then you have to have the phone. Then you have to have the phone set up, and who's monitoring the phone? Who's the phone plugged in? Is that charged? Is the watch? Someone's gonna have to look after that stuff.
Yeah.
So I just think like it'll become a little
bit. I think
bit.
We've talked ourselves out of this whole idea.
I mean, my whole family's doctors, so I think about this a lot. Yeah. It's, I mean, it's like I think about medicine. I'm not a doctor, but I talk to them a lot, and. It's an interesting question. I haven't talked myself out of it, but I would say that the Apple Watch Series 4 proposition is not an immediate slam dunk.
Right.
Of like, and I think the bigger design is great, but I would like to see it taken advantage of more. And battery.
We are out of time, but we got one last quick question from Waleed, who's been extremely patient. Scott, what do you like, the Sport Loop or the original black?
Oh.
Wait, what's the original black?
The original black band. We're talking about comfort on the bands.
Oh, for the rubber? Sport Loop is super comfy, but it looks really bulky a lot of the time. The Sport Loop, it depends on the color. Sometimes I feel like I'm wearing like a kid's, like slap bracelet or something.
Oh, yeah.
And it just gets like very bulky. But there was one color Sport Loop I liked a lot. It's the easiest, most comfortable one to attach. So, but the band, the rubber one looks a little better, I think. And every day.
It's a little complicated to put on.
Yeah, but if you're like doing workouts and stuff, I think Sport Loop is a good one to get.
Okay.
You just go and then reattach it.
You have to make the sound
it sounds like
as
that.
You do it though. Yeah.
It sounds and then you readjust it. The Velcro holds in there. I think wearing one for a year, the Sport Loop didn't really wear out all too much.
All right, that was one of my more favorite Apple shows we've done in a long time, and I'm, as you know, really sick and tired of hearing about it. But that was really informative. We had some really tremendously excellent questions from the chat. So thanks, everybody. And we do have to go. And thanks for being patient with us. We're running a little bit behind today.
The full review. Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Thank you. And
when does the full review come out?
Yeah, the full review is not out yet. So there's a lot of it. Stay tuned. It's probably going to come out hopefully soon. We're still working on it. We'll do fitness testing. It's always an ongoing thing, but maybe end of this week or beginning of next week. We really want to make sure we get a measured reaction. And once ECG is available, we'll be doing even more. So stay tuned for a lot of that.
All right. The 359 podcast is available on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, FeedBurner, SoundCloud, Google Play Music, and the Amazon Alexa. See you all tomorrow.
Bye, folks.
Bye.